Joe, thanks for joining us on Following On. Mate, what's it been like back playing at Headingley, playing at Yorkshire, back playing in county cricket? It seems as though you've enjoyed your time.
Yeah, I've absolutely loved it. It's nice to see Army. It's been a while, but I've absolutely loved it. It's a great group of lads. It's a very different team to what it was a few years ago when I was playing more regularly. But it's sort of a new challenge for me as a senior player coming back into it. It's a slightly different role, but and it's been quite. I suppose we feel a bit unfortunate in there's 6 games that we've had, 4 of them we've been bossing the games, and weather's sort of won, and the two where we've managed to get a full result, we've been on the wrong side of it. So it's been a little bit frustrating in that regard. But in terms of being back involved around county game, I've really enjoyed that side of it for sure.
And Joe Root, what does he look to achieve when he goes back to playing? Is it just to be that senior player? Because it's a little bit different to obviously the international cricket from the crowd and everything that goes with it. What are you looking to go back to achieve when you sort of stall out at the start of the campaign to say, right, before the first test match and playing these games?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, any team you play and you set out to win, don't you, and try and contribute to winning. I think in that team, as I mentioned, slightly different role, being a more senior player, a lot of experience, trying to pass that on to some of the younger players if possible, and if there's any ways you can help out or offer something, whether it's having a few discussions with the batters or suggesting a few ideas about how you want to take 20 wickets, whatever it is. I think you've just got to offer up as much as you can and try and give as much back as you can to that team. And then from a performance side of thing, it's just trying to get out there, get in the rhythm of. For me, batting is a lot about rhythm. It's try not to be too technical, but just try and find that rhythm of the game and get that sort of consistency with my movements, which I know enables me to go and score big runs. So I managed to do that on a couple of occasions so far this season, which has, I guess, put me in a nice place going into the Test summer on a personal level.
It's been a difficult couple of years for Yorkshire, both on and off the field. There's a lot of very good. Yorkshire will always have very good young players. There's the talent pool that Yorkshire have always had. There's always been a conveyor belt of players coming through and going through to England. How enjoyable is it to see, when you have gone back in, that these young, exciting players are growing sort of week by week, month by month, and year by year?
Yeah, I mean, you've been involved. You've seen them. You know how talented they are. There's some really good players. And it's not just at Yorkshire either, but it's making sure that the opportunities that are there for them to grow. And unfortunately, the scheduling as it is, it makes it quite difficult sometimes because they're playing so much cricket. It sort of dilutes the product slightly. But those players, like you mentioned, there's people like George Hill, Finley Bean. Obviously, Brookie's come through now and he's showing everyone all of his qualities, but done a hell of a lot of hard yards at Yorkshire and beforehand. There's some really good young players there that could go on to some really special things in the future. So to see that development coming back and trying to help guide that and help that it's a really nice privilege to have, really.
You mentioned the schedule. It's been a bit different this start of the season. You've had 2 games with a Kookaburra ball. I think you played in one of them. I know Daniel Bell-Drummond said on Friday night that he played late Friday night and then faced 85 mile an hour plus on Saturday, and he felt tired. I think you play Lancashire on the 20th, which is probably the closest from an atmosphere and emotions point of view to an international game that you'll get in domestic cricket. And then you've got Durham the following day, and then you go into the championship game on the 23rd. That's difficult for anybody, isn't it?
It is difficult. You mentioned the Kookaburra ball. I think that's can only be a good thing in county cricket. You're asking to learn a completely new skill set and to develop something, and maybe have to think about the game slightly differently, which I think can only be a good thing moving forward. I don't think it'll happen straight away and overnight, but I do think that that is something that over a long term, if it's used for a 4 or 5 year period, you'll see a progression bowlers be able to develop new skills and become better for it. If you ask me, I think there should be less championship games, 3 of which could be, or 4 of which could be 5-day games, and use a Kookaburra ball in those games and try and bridge that gap slightly towards Test cricket, and still enable a chance for people to get results if the wickets are flat, rather than moaning about no one can get a result. Why don't we find a different way around it, and why don't we try and keep finding ways of upskilling, giving batters opportunities to score big runs and learning what it's like to handle scoreboard pressure, and allowing spinners to come into the game and try and win your game on day 5, or day 4. In terms of the actual schedule, the amount of cricket that is out there now, it makes it very difficult to get. You talk about being able to perform at 100%. You want to be peaking when throughout those 4 days. You don't want to be going into it tired, or even having a depleted squad because guys are injured because of the amount of cricket they've had to play, and had to travel in between to get there. With the intensity that you want, if you want to match it or get it as close to the international scene, I think the only way around it, unfortunately, is by having more rest in between, and giving guys opportunity to freshen up and really hit those games hard, so that the standard's better, the pace is there, and skill level doesn't drop at any side, and you don't get players sort of operating at 70-80% just to get through and knowing that they've got games round the corner. You spoke about that Lancashire fixture. Lancashire's always an incredible atmosphere. I think it's going to be carnage this year. There's a Euros game on just before in the ground, so it'll be even more hectic in there. It'll be bouncing, but that should be, guys going into that should be absolutely ready to go at 100%, and not thinking, oh, we've got a game the next day and then we've got a championship game. That shouldn't be part of the thought process. It should be to the 100%, make it an amazing spectacle for everyone in the ground, everyone watching on the telly, and think about what's to come round the corner. So I just hope that in time this can get figured out, and that I can only the skill level, and if you're looking at it from an international perspective, the quality and everyone performing at that peak level, it makes things an easier transition, and raises the standard for when it comes to moving up and seeing those players there.
Joe, you played in the 100. Not as many blast. You haven't played much blast games, but you played in the 100. In the 100, it's talked about being private investment, and the sale of it could be around the corner. Is that the county's way out of them saying, well, we can't afford to play less cricket because the more cricket, we need cricket to play to keep our cash flow? Is it important that they get the sale of the 100 right, which then can filter down to make sure that counties get looked after and the players get looked after in such a way where you're saying the quality is better when less is more?
Yeah, I think you just have to look at the landscape of international sport, or not even international sport, just sport in general now. The amount of exposure it gets, the amount of money that's having to get pumped into it to produce the level of quality that is desired by people watching it. It's difficult for the county system as it is to cope with that. And I think the only way of us continuing to move forward is for that injection of cash in the game. And I can only see this being a good thing for not just white ball side of cricket, but also for the longevity of red ball cricket in our country as well, is getting more money in there so that we can keep putting out and producing the players that we desire to have at test level, and having a really good quality standard at county level as well, and in first class cricket. So I can't see how it would be a bad thing with private ownership coming into the game, potentially having that external investment into the county setup.
You're playing T20 cricket again. How good is that? I think, obviously captain England for 5 years. The one thing you probably did sacrifice more than anything else was the white ball element of the game and not playing as much T20 cricket. How good is it back in the Yorkshire shirt, playing T20, especially with a Roses match on the horizon?
Yeah, it's great. I've really enjoyed getting back into the Yorkshire dressing room, full stop. But to get the chance to play some T20 cricket, it's brilliant. You mentioned that, and that's one of the sacrifices that I made, and was, I was lucky enough to get the chance to captain England for such a long period of time, and it was part and parcel of it. But it's great to see that, with me missing out on certain things, guys coming in and raising the bar and taking the game to new heights and moving it forward. It needs to always keep evolving, and it's great to see this England team so powerful, so strong, and in such a good place going into a World Cup. From a personal side of things, I think I've got 6 to 8 games here in the Blast where I can dive into some T20 cricket. It's been over a year since I've played it. I've played a few hundred games last year, but bar that, there's been a long time to get into the format. So hopefully it can get some scores together and help us win some games and get us into a good spot in the Blast before the test matches come round.
Test matches come round. Your relationship with Ben, very, very close. How have you made, Ben's transition as captain? Being around him for so long, you've been through a hell of a lot with Ben Stokes. What have you made of the transition and everything that's going? Especially, well, there has been a bit of noise about your batting, but when I look at it, your average is higher, your strike rate's better, and can you do any more than average 50?
I think I've got to a stage in my career where I know what I want to achieve and I want to score my runs. And I think on a more poignant note, I think Ben's come into this role, and I mean, he's always been a leader in any team that he's played in. Even from being a young lad, he's always led by his actions and how he goes about everything, from his training to wanting to bowl 10 over spells to wanting to be out there and winning the game with the bat and taking on those big moments. He's always been the standard bearer in that regard. But the way his vision and the way he sees the game, the way he's been able to put that into the role of a captain and get people to follow him and keep people engaged in Test cricket and sort of give a sort of different way of looking at things, I think has been really refreshing. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea around the world and everyone has their own ideas how to do it, but I think what he has done, he's recognised the best players in this country, him and Baz and Keezy, and thought this is how we're going to get the best out of our best players, by playing in this way. And you've seen an upward curve in our Test cricket. There's no doubts about it. It is from where we were to where we are now. We look at a completely different animal as a Test match team, and that's testament to him and all that he's done in shaping and molding a team that he believes is going to go on and do special things in that format. So I think he's taken to it extremely well. I think it's exciting to watch. It's certainly exciting to play. And even though you look at the immediate results that we just had in India, it's such a tough place to go and play. But I do think tour on tour, we are developing, we are getting better. And that's a really exciting thing when you think we're a year and a half out from an Ashes tour in Australia. We're exciting to be able to go there knowing that we're on that upward curve, and if that continues, then we'll be in a really good spot to take them on down in Australia.
And just finally, Joe, it's going to be a good summer. I think the West Indies I think they've got an excellent bowling attack to come first up. Sri Lanka after that, from a Test match point of view. It's going to be a different one. No Broad at all. Anderson for one game. You've played 140 Test matches, and I think every single Test match you'll have played will have had at least one of them in the group. What's the summer going to be like? Jimmy's going to be there. He's going to be grumpy for one more 5-day game, and then he's going to be moving on. What's it going to be like without Broad and Anderson?
Well, I say they've been up part of the furniture since I've been involved. It's going to be slightly different. It's going to be very strange. That final Test match for Jimmy is going to be very emotional. He's someone I'm quite close with in the team, and I've been for a while. And to have the pleasure of watching him operate from slip for such a long period of time has been a joy. And yeah, we're gonna miss him for many years. But what a career he's had! What a brilliant player England have been able to watch for such a long period of time. And as I say, his achievements speak for himself. He's absolute legend. So it'll be very special. I hope we can cap it off for him really nicely. And he can have the fairy tale ending that Stuart had last summer, which was so fitting for him as well. So, but yeah, with that, it does come with opportunities for others, and that's obviously an exciting opportunity to guys to step up and hopefully, I know they're big shoes to fill, but go and do it in their own way and show what they can bring to the team and to the table, and take this team in the direction that Ben and Brendan want to take it, and that we all know that we're capable of going to.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.